Good morning. I'd like to welcome everybody to our webinar, the SWPPP Spring Maintenance Program. I'm Karen Hamill from HalenHardy, and we are going to look today at some things that you can do related to your stormwater pollution prevention plan that will help you to maintain the best management practices or BMPs that you have in place and keep those running throughout the different seasons through the year, so that you don't have unexpected downtime and so that they are working at their full capacity and they will continue to help you prevent pollution. So let's look first at some of the benefits of doing a spring maintenance routine and having those best management practices in place so that that pollution prevention plan can work to its fullest potential. The first one is to prevent flood control. A lot of different things that we use to control pollution involve keeping the pollutants from reaching a waterway, whether that is through a storm drain or perhaps through a retention pond. But those things do tend to accumulate debris and trash over time, especially if they're outdoors. So when we look at management programs there, looking for things that we may need to do to keep those drains open, to permit the access of the clean water that we want to go into the drains and to flow into the streams, to allow it to do that. But again, looking at that trash, collecting it, keeping those pollutants and potential things out of the waterways. So look at BMPs that you may have in different areas around retention ponds, or perhaps you have storm drains that need to be maintained in parking lots or in storage areas. What are those access points? What are those things that could back up and cause flooding problems for you? Check those in your stormwater pollution prevention plan or your SWPPP, and see if there are any of those that may need some spring maintenance to take care of anything that has accumulated over the walkway. Also a good time to check any filtration media that you might have in there. If you have media that captures sediment or debris, oils, other contaminants, metals, whatever those things may be, spring is a great time to maintain them. Get a fresh set of those filtration media in place so that you're ready for the spring storms that come and good throughout the summer. You can also have the benefit of protecting the environment. That's sort of the purpose of the stormwater pollution prevention plan that you have anyway. You're looking for ways that you can proactively prevent any of the pollutants that you might have on site from getting into the environment. So what are those best management practices that you have in place, and what do you need to do to ensure that they're going to continue to protect the environment in the way that you originally intended? You can also improve the quality of your receiving waters. I've had the opportunity to visit a lot of different facilities throughout the country. And one neat thing that I find is that when people have a proactive plan in place, they actually send out water into the environment that is cleaner than the water that they perhaps have received, or cleaner than the water that is upstream from them. So when we do have those effective things in place, and those effective BMPs that we're using every day, they will help us to improve the quality of the receiving waters, because we're not doing anything at our facility that would cause an impairment. And also, we're conserving water resources. Water is a finite resource. It's something that we don't get. It's not like a plant that we plant every day and we get a new one at the end of the season. So we do need to make sure that we're conserving water resources, and whatever we're doing to encourage that best management practice to be in place and encourage the maintenance that we need to keep it fulfilling itself is going to help preserve those resources, especially drinking water resources. And also, just like any preventative maintenance, those best management practices that we have in place, when we maintain them well at springtime and perhaps other times throughout the year, we're going to have fewer unexpected breakdowns. We can plan those things in advance, do that preventative maintenance so that we have the materials, the tools, the things, the BMPs that we need to keep everything running as we expect. Preventing emergencies. When we make sure that we've got all of our BMPs in place and we're maintaining them well, we can prevent spills. We can prevent things from backing up. We prevent all those things that cause a situation that interrupts everything that we're doing for the day. And we can also be prepared for inspections and audits. Inspections and audits are something that hopefully they're routine for you. Hopefully they're things that you plan. Hopefully you're doing those inspections daily, monthly, weekly, quarterly, whatever they may be. And also if your facility is one that does audits, if you are performing those maintenance tasks and routines on a regular basis, you're going to be prepared for those inspections. You're going to be prepared for those audits. And these, again, can be internal or external, whatever they may be. Being prepared for those is a great thing because it will allow you to continue with your daily operations and not have a long list of things to do after that inspection or audit. And you can increase the lifespan of tools and equipment. Preventative maintenance, this is something that we often see with equipment. We usually see this performed by a maintenance technician, or an operations manager may handle this. But the better we are able to maintain things, whether it is a tool or a filter or whatever it may be that is in our plan to help prevent pollution, those things are going to last longer, the better that we are able to maintain them. And finally, our better time management. If we take that time and we schedule that time to perform spring maintenance and other routine maintenance on our best management practices that are in our SWPPPs, we're going to have less downtime in the future. We're going to be prepared for everything else that spring and summer bring for us, and be able to do that without having to go back and fix and put Band-Aids on things to keep everything moving. So let's take a look now at some of the things that you may have as BMPs, or best management practices, that may need to have a look, especially in the summer. And if you have structural BMPs, and structural BMPs are those things that are in place. So this could be filtration systems, this could be secondary containment devices, all of those things that actually are a physical thing as opposed to an administrative thing, for example, training employees. So something that you can actually see and feel and touch is a structural BMP. Chances are good, if you've got one of those in place, there should be a routine or a schedule of maintenance that goes with that. If not, it might be time to take a look at that within your plans and establish one so that you do receive those benefits that we've just talked about. The first one is retention ponds. Retention ponds are a very common best management practice, and they can be found in a lot of different areas: manufacturing, construction, urban planning. A lot of different facilities and organizations will use retention ponds as a way to help to collect excess rainwater that may be from paved surfaces. And also they can be a great device to help you have that second chance at collecting any pollutants that you might have before they're being discharged. So if you've got pumps in this area, pumps are something that take a lot of stress and a lot of work, for lack of a better term. They do a lot of that work, especially when those water levels are rising and falling. So check on your pumps in the spring. Make sure that they have made it through the winter. Have they been subjected to extreme conditions, extreme weather that has caused anything to crack? Make sure that they are still functioning properly. Look at any filtration media that you might have in there as well. Are they still capable of filtering out whatever pollutants they're intended for? Look for any silt that has built up. One thing that we see a lot with retention ponds is that people put them in and they're not maintained. And over time, of course, they fill up with silt, they fill up with sediment, sometimes they fill up with trash, whatever it may be. Those things all need to be maintained. So they need to be dredged every once in a while to make sure that that retention pond is still capable of filling its purpose. A lot of different ways to do that. Sometimes it does just take manual maintenance. Sometimes it's a matter of just adding a new product or a new capability to that best practice to keep that retention pond in its best working order. The next one are storm drains, and storm drains are something that are designed, again, just like those retention ponds, to get water off of that paved surface quickly and accurately. Most often, those are leading straight to a navigable waterway. And of course, anything that we can do to protect those areas and keep those pollutants on the land as opposed to going down the drain is going to be advantageous for us. So a lot of things that we can do there. This, as you can see the storm drain in this picture, there are a lot of leaves. This is an autumn picture, but these things accumulate in the spring as well. We start to get grass clippings. We have all that leftover silt and dirt and road waste that has come through the winter, and just simply sweeping those can help with pollution. Quite often, drains are an area where we also put filtration media, just like those retention ponds, that outflow point. So looking at ways to do that, it could be as simple as sweeping. It might be a matter of taking that grate off and seeing what's accumulated underneath it, or putting a best management practice in place, like a guard that we're showing in the pictures here, to prevent that from getting down there in the first place and making that easier to maintain in the future. But removing that silt and sediment, looking for pollutants, great way to start your spring off and make sure that as we get the rains of summer, heavy rains of summer, we're not backtracking and having to attend to those drains all the time because they've backed up and your areas around them are now flooding. Next, look at your drainage systems. Where do all of your outflows lead? They go somewhere. What is that? Is it a gutter? Is it a ditch? Does it go directly into a river or a pond? Whatever that system is there anything that is blocking it or preventing the water from draining through it? And this can sometimes take maintenance, especially if it hasn't been done for a while. A lot of debris and silt and sediment can accumulate in those, just like everything else, and cause those to back up. So as part of your spring maintenance, what needs to be done in those areas? What can be done to clear them out so that they are a good passage, they are a good system that channels that water? And what can be done to prevent things from getting into them in the future? Look for those things in your maintenance plan that can make your job easier going forward. It may take a little more work this year, but things that you put into place now that make it better and keep things from getting into those drainage systems can really, really improve your routine maintenance down the stream. The next is removing debris. And this is something that can take time if it's done manually, but there are a lot of pieces of equipment now that can cover large areas and sweep up large debris, even if it means renting a street sweeper from the local company that cleans the parking lot at the mall, whatever that means for you. If you've got a lot of area outdoors where things are stored, maybe it's equipment, maybe it is products, maybe it's raw materials that you'll be using throughout the season. Whatever those things are that create debris within your property, the more of it that you can remove, the more of it that you can contain and keep from those drains, the easier your maintenance is going to be throughout the year. So take some time this spring and look for those areas where just that dirt, debris, trash has accumulated, and make the time now to clean it up so that you're ready to go all season. Next areas are pumps. This could be a pumping station. It might be a water shelter. It could be purification systems. Maybe it's bringing water into your facility or taking water out of secondary containment systems. Wherever those pumps are located and whatever they're doing, they do take a lot of harsh treatment, especially through the winter months, especially with freeze-thaw cycles. So check seals on those, check the piping coming in and out of it, check any hoses that might be connected to them. What about that pump can fail? And what about that pump needs to be looked at least once a year? And spring, again, is a great time to do that, to make sure that it's going to serve you all summer long. And seals are a big thing, especially in the spring. They've got, and if you're in that cold weather climate especially, it is very common for those seals to have gone through that cycle and to show some cracking. So take a look at those and look for maintenance that may need to be done to keep them going. If you store any machinery or equipment outdoors, is there an opportunity for any hydraulic system within that to fail? And of course, the obvious answer to that is yes. Especially if we haven't used that machinery for a while, we don't know the condition of those hoses. As you're looking at bringing that machine into operation for the spring, look at those hoses, maintain the hoses on your equipment, maintain the different things in the equipment, different areas of the equipment that hold fuel. Look at all of the systems and make sure that they're ready to go for the season. It's not uncommon to find, especially after a harsh winter, to go into your equipment yard or go into a storage area and find that something has leaked over the winter and it's just something that has been missed. So when you are looking at those machines, look for leaks, look for spills, and be prepared for those in that area. There are a lot of spill kits on the market that can be stored outdoors so that they are with the equipment. You can actually store spill kits on the equipment itself so that you are ready for those leaks when they do happen. And they're often unexpected. Sometimes you just can't predict when that hydraulic hose is going to fail. So having the ability to clean up those spills quickly when they do happen in the areas where spill kits are needed can really help those frontline employees to take care of that so that those pollutants aren't carried to the nearest storm drain. Next area is rooftops and downspouts. Rooftops, especially rooftops that are metal, can release the constituents of those metals into water when rain or snowmelt hits them. So looking for areas where you can collect any of those pollutants that may be coming off your roof, even if it's just silt and sediment that collects there from dust being blown around in the air, whatever that may be, looking for ways to capture that at the downspout or even at the rooftop level so that it's not getting into the storm drains. It's not being carried across your paved areas. It's not getting into your retention ponds. Doing more at that source to look for management techniques as opposed to allowing it to cross your property and accumulate elsewhere where it's harder to collect. The next, look at your fleet. Your fleet is probably going to get a good workout this summer. Trucks will be in motion. Trucks will be moving to different areas. If you've got a mobile fleet especially, summer is a great time for all of your equipment to be out and operating. Is your fleet ready for that? Has everything been checked? Is everything ready to go? Do they have new tires? Do they have new wipers on the windshields? Do they have new hoses? Is the air filter good? All of those different things that we check on our fleet as a preventative maintenance program can also be a best management practice for your stormwater prevention plan. That preventative maintenance, if it is done well, is going to help prevent those fleet, the equipment in your fleet from being out of service when you need it the most. So look for ways that can be done on a routine basis, spring, fall, whatever it may be. But spring's a great time to look at any equipment that was damaged over the winter as well, and make sure that it is operational for that entire season. With your fleet, if you do have the opportunity for spills, and anytime you're working with liquids, quite often that is the case, look for the ability to clean that up quickly. So that might mean stocking absorbents within your fleet operations or in your maintenance facilities so that they are ready to handle those situations as they come and those pollutants don't get off of your facility. Next one are outflows, and outflows are any areas where water is leaving your property and is going into a stream, a river, a canal, a basin, a pond, wherever that river is going, wherever that water is going after it leaves that pipe or that culvert. Those are another great area that you can look for BMPs to put into practice that will help you to, as kind of that final polishing step, keep any pollutants that might have gotten away from you from getting into that water. So look for ways that you can improve those. It could be putting in filtration media. It could be having booms ready in case something does get loose, whatever that means for your facility. But a lot of different ways to do that and keep those in place. Next, let's look at some planning efforts. So ways that you can plan to do those best practices. The first one is to look at manufacturer's instructions for any equipment or BMPs that you have in place. If you've got tanks, pumps, pipelines, earth moving equipment, whatever it is you've got, chances are it came with a manual. And reviewing that manual is a really good idea because there should be recommendations on how to maintain it and when to maintain it. And it may say that you only need to check something every 3 years. I've never seen that personally, but if that's the case, schedule it. If it says that you need to check something every month, is there a plan in place at your facility to make that happen? Is that reflected in your SWP? What are those recommendations and how are they scheduled? Are those recommendations put into place for each piece of equipment, for each device that you have, to make sure that you're not having that unexpected downtime, to make sure that whatever needs to be done is done in a timely manner? And if they aren't already in your plans, make the effort to incorporate those so that they are in the future, and going forward, you don't have any unexpected surprises. Next is, of course, to follow any regulations or standards that may apply to your facility or your industry. There are a lot of different things out there that some people may not be aware of. Of course, the focus of this is on your SWP and on that NPDES permitting, but there may be other things that you need to do as well. And quite often you can incorporate what you're doing for your SWP into those other regulations. So if there are other environmental regulations that apply to you, look for ways that you can simplify your maintenance program so that when you're doing one task, it meets the criteria for other things as well. A lot of different industry standards that are out there. There could be ANSI standards or ASTM standards, NFPA standards, whatever those things are that you're following. Look for ways to include those in your maintenance program so that just as you're looking to fulfill the needs of your SWP, you can also be fulfilling any other needs that might be out there at the same time. So you're not duplicating your efforts. Check your SWP. What does it say? When's the last time that you looked at it? Is it something that gets put together and only gets looked at every time that the permit needs to be renewed? Probably should be something that is a little more of a living document for you. But what does that plan say? What does that plan dictate that we need to do? And of course, going back to the beginning of this, you create your SWP so that you can get your permit. So what does the permit say? Does the permit say that you need to do something monthly? Does it say that you need to do it quarterly? Does it say anything? Chances are good that things have been put into those plans that help prevent pollution, and the more that we're aware of those, the easier it is to get those into a schedule so that we can make them happen. The next thing is to determine who's going to do it, when they're going to do it, and how they're going to do it. If it's one thing to be in a plan, and it's another thing to have things in a schedule. But if we don't have a plan for how that's going to happen, sometimes things don't get done. They kind of fall through the cracks. So as you're looking at the things that need to be done in your plan and in your operations, determine who's going to do that. Is it a person? Is it a department? Is it a contractor? Is it something that you're going to have another company come in and do? What is it, and who's going to complete that task or that operation? When are they going to do it? What time is it scheduled? What day is it scheduled? Is it something that we're going to do this month, next month? Is it something that maybe got done over the winter and nobody logged it? But having a specific time and accountability for when that happens increases that likelihood that it's going to be done. And again, how is it going to be done? Are we going to do it? Is somebody else going to do it? But knowing that information and putting it in a plan and having the documentation is going to help with any proof that you are doing your due diligence to be compliant. It is something that regulators will look for as well. They can say, okay, it says in your plan that you're going to do X, Y, and Z. When was that done and how was it done? Having the ability to document that shows those regulators when they do come on site that you do have a plan in place and you are making those efforts. And if in the event that you do have a spill, it shows that you're not completely negligent, that you do have the foresight to have those planning things in place. And finally, stocking supplies that you'll need. This is something that we sometimes overlook, and especially when things haven't gone wrong for a while, it can be a little, it could be a time to relax and say, okay, you know what, we haven't really needed that. Maybe I don't need to stock up on that. But whatever those things may be, are they parts that need to be replaced that are hard to obtain? Is there a valve or a fitting or a pump seal that has a very long lead time? Is it something that we need to take a look at and maybe stock? I know that just-in-time manufacturing is a big thing right now, and it saves people a lot of money because they don't have stockpiles of things just sitting around. But and then sometimes in some cases that makes sense. For example, we may always be able to get this certain part, but I think with the pandemic, that things have taught us that it may not be that easy to get something that we need. And especially if it's something that we need as a BMP and something that we are using to prevent pollution, it may make sense to take a second look at those and check our lead times again. Check with your suppliers, check with your vendors, make sure that those parts are in place. And if it is something that does take a long lead time, maybe we need to take a look at stocking a few of those things so that they are ready and they're available when we need them and not when the supplier can get them to us. Wrapping up, preventative maintenance is something that has been in the books for a long time. It's something that manufacturers have long embraced. But when we apply those things, it's something that we may not necessarily apply to best practices or something we may not apply to planning. But when we do those things and we incorporate the best practices into a routine maintenance schedule, especially in the springtime, getting rid of all of that winter junk that has accumulated through the season, we are better able to have less downtime within our plans and less unexpected things happening for our upcoming season. And for a lot of us, this upcoming season is the time that a lot of work needs to get done. So look at those plans, look at your plans, look at those things that are in place, look at the ways that you can proactively prevent that pollution from happening so that you don't have to stop what you're doing during the busy season and deal with spills and other things that you were not expecting. At this time, I would like to give Troy. Troy, would you like to add anything at this time?
No, I think just from a housekeeping perspective, thanks, Karen. That was great. I know we have one question in the chat here. Will certificates of attendance showing credit hours be issued? Yes, we'll be sending out a link to request those certificates following up after this webinar. So we'll get you that. So if you just want to click on the link and then fill that out, we will get you the certificate if you need it or want it. Also, just to Karen's point, just from an overall perspective, we always joke at HalenHardy that people only call us when crap hits the fan, right? And bad things happen, but we really try to pride ourselves on helping people to be in that preventative mode and look at areas around facilities for our customers and help them be prepared. So when things do happen, they're not behind the eight ball and really trying to whether it be get spill cleanup materials or have something that's in or around storm drains or discharge areas. Really looking at that. So if you guys have any areas or questions about what Karen talked about, you can email us. I'll put this in the chat, but sales@halenhardy.com. And we can review, take a look at areas that you guys may have concerns at your facilities. We can also, we pride ourselves on developing products, not only for cleaning and containing spills around facilities, but also for filtering contaminants out of stormwater. So again, if you have any areas where you may be having issues, we're happy to review that for you and maybe make some suggestions. And then depending on location, we also have a service team that does installs and maintenance of all these different types of products and solutions. So if you do have anything that you would like to discuss on that end, we're happy to look into it deeper for you guys. So we appreciate everyone attending. And we do have one question here, and I'm not an expert, Karen. And if we don't have an answer, we'll dig into it for you and get it back to you. But it says, how do you address vector control in retention ponds? That's not an area of my expertise, so I'm not sure, Karen, if you have some insight there.
That's a great question. Vector control, for anybody who's not familiar with the term vector control, a vector is any unwanted pest that may be in an area. So in this case, vectors, I'm thinking you're probably looking at mosquitoes, frog tadpoles, things of that nature, things that are in a retention pond that get into the water and want to stay there and create a nuisance of themselves. I'm assuming that's what they're talking about in this instance. And in a facility, it might be a mouse or a rodent of some sort. But looking at at vectors in retention ponds, one of the things that I have found that is best there is keeping the water in motion. So that could be installing a fountain or something that keeps that water from becoming stagnant, and also keeping the pollutants out of it. So looking at the vectors, they kind of tend to lurk in places that are a little dirtier, and they kind of tend to like dirty water. Also, when you're looking at vectors, they could be microorganisms. So if you have any oil that's in that pond, it kind of creates that mildew, stinky problem, and things like to feed on that. So the better that you are able to keep those retention ponds clean, keep the silt and sediment out of them, keep pollutants out of them, especially oils or any other thing that may be a feeding thing out of them. So any kind of nutrients that might be getting into the water, keeping those out with filtration media before the water gets into the pond helps. And also, as I mentioned, keeping that water moving, so have some kind of an agitator in there that keeps that water from becoming stagnant, can really help control those vectors.
Awesome. Thank you, Karen. Well, again, any questions, sales@HalenHardy.com, or you can go right to our website at HalenHardy.com and fill out one of our forms. And we appreciate everyone attending again, and thanks for your time. We didn't take up your full hour, so it looks like we'll give you about 28 minutes back that you didn't think you had. So
thanks, everyone.